If the idea of surrounding yourself with a deeply engaged community who love what you do, buy everything you offer, and provide a great sounding board for future ideas is of interest, then you are in for an absolute treat. It's a nurturing episode 558 of the 12-year-old award-winning Small Business Big Marketing podcast.
Well, I said, welcome to a small business marketing show, where successful small business owners share their souls to take your marketing straight to the lead. Now, here's your host, Mr. Timbo Reid.
And welcome back to your weekly dose of warm and fuzzy marketing. I'm your host, Timbo Reid, and I have an insatiable curiosity for uncovering marketing strategies and ideas that help businesses just like yours to grow. You, on the other hand, well, you're a motivated business owner ready to crank out some great marketing to build that beautiful business of yours into the empire it absolutely deserves to be. And that is exactly what we do around here. That's why this podcast exists, so you are in the right place. As per usual, team, there's marketing GOLD dripping from the ceiling over here at Small Business Big Marketing's HQ. So let's get stuck right in. If you're a long-time listener, then you'll be familiar with Andrew Griffiths, or Griffo, as he likes to be known. Back in the day, Griffo and I would do bonus episodes called Funny Business, where we talk about a variety of business issues that were on our minds. Plus, we've also done episodes on how to self-publish a book and how to become a popular keynote speaker. Griffo is such a giving human being, and he's brilliant at helping people grow businesses they love. He's written 14 business books published in 65 countries, including his most recent, which I absolutely love, titled Someone Has to Be the Most Expensive. It may as well be you. Such a great title, such a great concept, and such a great book. Now, these days, Griffo is all about teaching business owners how to future-proof their business. And one major way he does this is by showing step-by-step how to build a deeply engaged community. And that's exactly what we focus on today. You're going to discover the upside of having a deeply engaged community will help you break through any limiting beliefs you may have around building a deeply engaged community. Plus, we give you 5 ideas to implement immediately to get your community building underway. Now, if you're champing at the bit to get going on what I reckon is a very important marketing strategy, i.e. community building, then check out Griffo's course over at getacommunity.com. Maybe have it up on the screen while we're talking, because it really is going to be an absolute ripper. I started off by asking him what a deeply engaged community looks like.
I think we think about community as having lots and lots of followers and lots of, numbers. And you and I both know there's a big, big difference between having 100,000 likes and followers, and having 1,000 deeply engaged people. And to me, a deeply engaged community is it's a multi-level ecosystem, to use that as a term, where you're a leader. I think in that community is probably where it kind of stems from. But it's people that are in there that, you're helping. They like what it is that you have to say. They like your advice. They like your thought leadership, or just whatever it might be that you do. It might be your sense of humor. It might be the advice that you give. But the deeply engaged part for me means that they interact, they advocate, they promote, they participate, they share, they respond. It's like having a Facebook page and it's got 10,000 people that like it, but no one ever comments. No one ever does anything. It's a one-way flow of communication. And it's a bit of a bombard where anyone who's listening, I'm sure, has been, or they are a part of a community, your community, I'm sure. And there's this big exchange. You're talking about stuff, you're sharing stuff, they're giving you opinions, they're giving you views. But a big part about that engagement side of things that I find is that I get as much as I give in that environment, because there's this level of engagement, and I treat my community with the utmost of respect, that it's very much a two-way flow of support, of knowledge, of information. Like, my first go-to place is not Google, it's my community.
There's so many upsides. Well, let's talk about those upsides, because let's, bring this back to business of any size, and any business owner listening, whether they have a 3-person cleaning business or whether they have a 50-person promotional products business or whatever it may be. The idea of having a community must be, I'm guessing, both exciting and daunting. And obviously our challenge today is to make it absolutely exciting and lose a lot of the daunt. Is daunt a word? I don't know. It doesn't matter. It is as of today, but we're going to lose the daunt around community engagement and building. So the benefits, Griffo,
amazing.
Let's just go through them, mate, because they are far-reaching. I'll open the batting, and you're the one who's running this, but I would, build a great community of people who love what you do and want to talk about it to others and et cetera, and help others in your community. Is they're going to be less price sensitive. That's got to be a good thing.
Completely. Straight away, which obviously is a big topic that I'm talking about these days.
Yeah.
With, someone's got to be the most expensive. It may as well be you.
Great book.
You can't do that unless you've got a great community. And you're right, because there's an emotional engagement. People get tired of hearing me say this word, but engagement, deep engagement is a term that differentiates it. So yes, less price sensitive. For me, Tim, I don't do any product, okay, without actually going out to my community first and saying, hey, I'm thinking about doing this. Give me your thoughts. Now, my community will come back and they will say, yay, no. I'll ask price point. I'll do everything. The reason that I do that, I know that, okay, if I do that initial kind of question, if I don't get 50 to 100 responses that say do it, I don't spend another moment on it. I don't waste any time, because what I see so many people doing today is they're spending months developing online programs, memberships, they're doing this, they're doing that. They don't actually know if anyone wants it. So they're doing it, investing all the time and money, then they're going and trying to find someone to buy it. And what they're missing there is if they really engaged and had an engaged community, your market research there's zero risk, because your community says don't do it or do it. So for me...
So can I just interrupt you there, Griffo? Because it's bloody hard to get a word in at best at times talking to you. But I was talking to my wonderful girlfriend Sarah only last night, saying, I'm interviewing the big fella. And now Sarah has an idea for sort of a coaching product, without going into great detail, but it's helping people who are going through a separation be their best self. Okay, so it's sort of around that. It's in that space. And she's talking about, she's half written the book. She's got an idea for some educational products and coaching packages and all that kind of stuff. But it's like, put that aside and start to build the community, start to build the traffic, if you like, start to build that handful of raving fans who, when you are ready to sell something, they're going to buy it, but B, even before that, they're going to suggest what you create. They're going to tell you what you create. Powerful stuff, right? When you're building a community like that off the bat.
So it's so true. And the thing is that the model is a little bit broken, right? Because what we do is we develop the product and then we look for someone to buy it. And we think that Facebook ads are going to be the answer. We'll do a whole pile of Facebook ads and you go, that ain't the answer, right? And the guy that wrote the book Content Inc., and I can never remember his name, he's from the Content Institute in New York.
Joe Paluzzi.
Yep. And again, that's what he talks about, is this model. Build the community first and then ask them what they want and then give it to them. You go, well, gee, that's rocket science, isn't it? But we tend to do it arse about. And I come across so many people that I'm working with and I go, look, great book, great product, great course. Who's going to buy it? If you've got no community, and so that whole element of that is so important. And look, if you've got products and you've got this stuff and you go, oh my God, I've got it wrong, all it means is you've got to now be working on building your community. It's never
too late. Never too late.
Hey,
I started the Small Business Big Marketing Tribe on Facebook. I think it's 8 months ago. My podcast is 12 years old. I'm sorry, guys. I've had forums and I've dipped into community before, but now properly doing it, it feels quite incredible to be nurturing a group of people, all with the same intention, all with, similar values, all who love what I'm doing and all who are willing to contribute and support me and support each other. And I just think it's amazing. I want to keep going through the benefits, Griffo, but just to be crystal clear, in terms of what mediums are we talking? I know a Facebook group is the obvious place for a community. You can have a LinkedIn group. You could go and buy some forum software and have, third-party full ownership of that. Not a bad idea. Own the race course, not the race horse, as my friend James Schramko used to say. Any other sort of spaces that these communities exist in?
I think you can keep it really simple. You can even just use your Facebook timeline. That's my main form of connection with my community.
Is it really?
To be brutally honest.
So literally, literally Andrew, / Andrew Griffiths or whatever your Facebook is.
That's where. And that's the main thing, but it's also a range of platforms. Sure, I have a few groups that people within my community, like special interests within my community, like authors and speakers or whatever. So I have special groups within there that people can join. So and also another point there, and I'll go back to benefits in a second because I think that there's a few more in there. You can have a few communities. I have my main community, but I also have like my past speaking clients are a community. I have my authors. I've trained 750 people to write a book. They're a community. My speaker training people. They're So you can have communities within.
So physically, you're holding your hands up, going, "Oh, there's a block. There's a community."
Yes.
Are they little sub on your Facebook timeline? Are they? How do you distinguish between them?
They're a part of my overall community. Right, and that's like in my timeline, in my EDM email lists, in my LinkedIn, whatever it might be, some way that we're connected. But they're also probably a smaller group.
Yeah, okay. It can be really specific. We could just talk Facebook groups, but I see what you're saying is like it's on your Facebook timeline. You've got email lists of all the various different types of services that you provide, so you're doing it in a number of ways, and that's, I like that. Again, it takes the pressure off having to sort of be so tech.
The other thing is it's a special interest. If I'm putting stuff on my main kind of timeline and it's not completely relevant to the whole group, it creates a little bit of disconnect. But to go back to the benefits, mate, because that to me, I think is what people don't quite get. We have a great, deeply engaged community. They're less price sensitive. They're great for market research. Another role that I think we don't necessarily think about is the role that they serve as policing us. And what I mean by that is, an example, about 5 years ago, I was approached by a lady in America who reached out and said, "Oh, I love your books. I love what you do. I'm starting a new business and I want to do like an online summit. Can I interview you?" And I went, "Yeah, sure. Of course, happy to help, love to support people, do all of that kind of stuff." Anyway, she sent me through an agreement and I went, "Oh, okay, this is quite formal." So I've kind of had a bit of a read, sounded fine. But anyway, it all kind of came through. Next thing I'm being interviewed on how to make $12 trillion a week, in multi-level marketing or something. And I'm going, seriously, I should have cottoned on a little bit earlier and, rah. I felt a bit obligated and I went, okay, we'll do it, rah. And part of my agreement was I had to promote it. Anyway, what was really interesting was on my public Facebook and LinkedIn and the rest of it, there wasn't a lot of interaction, but I got a whole pile of emails and direct messages done very respectfully from people saying, "Andrew, is that really on brand for you? Love what you do, really love you, but, like that to me feels a bit icky and I've never seen you do anything like that." And I was so grateful. And they did it in such in a considered way. And these are people that I, again, respected. I actually did a post then and explained it and apologised and said, this lady got furious with me, say, "That is not what I do. This is how it happened. Thank you to everyone who reached out to me to say, hey, is that really on brand for you?" And that made me really understand and value my community. The other kind of elements of the advantages here, we're going through COVID, where whatever that looks like, you got a deeply engaged community. Believe me, that's like having a deeply engaged customer base, if you want to kind of call it that, whatever, whether they're buying or supporting or just fans. They will get you through the tough times because that's where all of your referrals are going to come from. That's where all of your regulars, that's where the people are going to buy what you're selling. They're going to buy your new products. If you've got a good product architecture that they've helped to develop, you build this great, ongoing kind of, beast as such of wonderful people who will buy your products. And there's nothing wrong with selling to your community. You sell in a respectful way. But if it's all about flogging them stuff every time you communicate, we get a bit tired of that pretty quickly.
Would you, question without notice, Griffo, but would you know what percentage of people who buy the various courses that you run, you know, the books that you write, the things that you do, what percentage would be from your community? Would it be the majority?
Books is a little bit different because that's, you know, obviously broader and mainstream. But products and things, 90% would come from my community. Easily 90%. Every referral from my community. That 10% kind of find me through listening to shows like yours that they haven't connected to me. They somehow, or I've spoken at an event, but they follow a predictable path. We connect. They probably join my email database, reach out, and it flows. That's why they're so vital to me, and it's such an essential part of my business. I couldn't actually imagine how I would do business without my community. And if I was sitting here saying, okay, I'm starting a business as a coach or as a this or as an author or a speaker, and I haven't got any community, I'm not actually sure what I would do.
Which kind of raises the question twofold. What types of businesses should have a community? And I know you're going to probably say most.
Yep.
And then the second layer of that, I think even more importantly, is what type of business owner is a community suited to?
Yeah.
Do you have to be an extrovert? Or is it better off that you're an introvert? Do you have to be local to these people where your members are going to... talk about that, Griffo.
Again, such a great point. When you look at the type of business that needs a community, sure, I'm always going to say, every business, in reality, and of course, never really works that way that it is every business. But it's kind of understanding. Sometimes I think we're too literal. So we go, okay, I make pens, so I'm going to have a community of people that want to know about the pen that I make. You go, okay, well, that'll be 3 posts. Okay, what do I do now? But really what your community probably want to know about probably are things like stationery, probably things about writing, things about organisation. So things about time management, like who's buying the pens? Maybe it's people studying, students, artists, whatever it might be. So we've got to be careful, I think, of being a little bit too literal. When you see, like you look at a restaurant and go, restaurants have extraordinary communities. Most of them build them via Instagram. Because you've got all of the things, I wrote in my book about this business called Holy Crumpets, and
amazing,
amazing, that wonderful little experience, and again of
tell the story.
It's a really interesting story. I heard mythologically, these rumours were emanating through the Melbourne community in the depths of lockdown about these crumpets that are said to change your life if you have these crumpets. And I'm going, yeah, right, okay, sure. It's a freaking crumpet, $2.99 from Woolies. I can get all the crumpets I want. My partner Lolita said, "Oh no, you got to get these." So anyway, I'm trying to figure out how to buy. It was really complicated online. Like they announce the batch is now coming out, and you've got to get on there. It's like the European lottery. You've got to kind of get on there and get your order in. And then you've got to go and pick them up. So it's a Saturday morning in Melbourne, middle of winter, this time last year, and I'm looking at the address, and it's like in this kind of little dodgy area, and there's just this number on a building, and I've literally had to walk up, no signage, no nothing. I've literally walked up and kind of did 3 knocks, and the guy opens the door, and he's a hipster looking dude, and what do you want? And I'm kind of going, it's like I'm doing a drug deal.
Yeah.
And I'm holding
it was literally a hole in the door, wasn't it? It wasn't like you didn't open the whole door.
No. It was like a 2-part door that you kind of, opens a little bit. And I'm kind of showing him this order thing. And there's very little communication, right? He shuts his door. And I go, well, okay, what do I do now? And I wait there. And then he kind of opens it up again and has this bag, and there you go. And I go, thank you. Run off to the car and open up these 2 boxes in there filled with these amazing crumpets.
Oh my God! And your life was changed. So your point there is they're building a community again. I mean, and it's amazing. I've been since I'm reading about it in your book. I had a look at I think it was either Insta or Facebook, and it's sort of like this secret society. As a business owner, what have you got to be, Griffo? Do you have to be nurturing? Do you have to be organised? What are those traits that make for a great business owner of a community?
You've got to understand the importance of the community for the big picture of what it is you're doing. If you're trying to set up a community to flog them stuff, that's it. to be honest, it ain't going to last terribly long. So you've got to say, I want to have a community because I want to lead this community. I want to help, I want to support, and I want to respect. Because if you do those three things, that'll get mirrored back to you. So I think it's that intent and purpose. You've got to say, well, am I prepared to do this? Because one of the things that I've certainly found, and where I really learned about community was being part of a community, was how often people would reach out to me and just, one-to-one, direct message me, they wanted a bit of help or a bit of advice. And I realized how important it was that when I was a mentor and a leader in that group, that I needed to give that advice. And I saw what happened in that group when there was that high level of engagement and support. And I saw what happened when that dropped off. And how the community kind of fell apart in reality. So I think you need to be able to say, okay, well, I'm in this for the long haul. I want to build a community, and this is going to be a big part of my business development strategy, my growth, and my future proofing of my business is really what that's all about. So, you don't have to spend 10 hours a day on your community. You don't have to, live, breathe, eat, sleep it, but you need to have a presence. And I hear people say, oh, yeah, I've outsourced my community management to someone else. And I go, big mistake.
Big mistake. Yeah.
Like in this world of outsourcing, I get it. Everyone's got a VA. We all understand all of that kind of jazz. But I can tell the minute a community is managed by someone externally, and I tell you what, the connection rate plummets.
Drops. Yeah, huge.
Because everyone else can. So you got to be prepared to invest some time. But you can either go, oh my God, I've got to manage my community, or you can go, how awesome! I'm going to share this. I'm excited. I did something yesterday, which I just made a whole pile of Zoom cards, which because of the Zoom world, I should have done it a year ago, and it was just like funny little Zoom cards that we can hold up.
Oh yeah.
And I just put it on my Facebook page, like I'm not wearing trousers, whatever it might be. I'm not playing Candy Crush. I'm really engaged. Or thanks for organising a 5:30 p.m. Zoom call. All of that kind of stuff. It was just something I was mucking around with, to try and get a bit of engagement when I'm doing live, online events and stuff. Just posted on my Facebook page. I got a pile of interaction, engagement, suggestions from other people.
Can I buy them?
Yeah, can I buy them? Exactly. Why aren't you publishing these?
But that's interesting in itself. Going back to the research, just as a community owner, manager, look at the language that's being used and the emotion that's being used and the amount of responses. And if all of a sudden 5 people in the first 10 responses are saying, where can I get these? You kind of have a fair sense that you're onto something.
Absolutely. And it's, again, the value of this as a market research tool is priceless. Absolutely priceless. But also, the other part of this comes in. I say, hey, I'm doing a retreat in Hobart. I get a whole pile of people say, wow, we did that retreat in Bali or in Cairns or in Inverloch or wherever it was, England. It was amazing. If you're thinking about writing a book, do Andrew's retreat. That's what the community does. I just need to say, hey, I'm running a retreat. I don't have to sell it. I just say it's there.
Griffo, at this point, you and I have covered a fair bit of ground in terms of defining what a deeply engaged community looks like. We've talked about who's it suited to in terms of business owners, types of businesses, the benefits of having one. I am guessing there are still business owners listening to us jabbering on, and they've got some limiting beliefs. And those limiting beliefs could be around, community is going to take so much time that I don't have. It's going to be expensive. It's going to be complicated from a technology point of view. What if I get haters? All these little kind of voices talking to you as to why you shouldn't. I'd like to bust through all those limiting beliefs in sort of one foul swoop, but maybe we do that by sort of giving people now a greater sense of how they can go about building a community. But any last words on limiting beliefs for those who are on the fence?
I think you summarised them perfectly. Probably the big one, that one about the haters. It's interesting. What I know, because I've got a deeply engaged community, if I get a random kind of hater come along, I don't need to defend myself because my community defends it. They defend me. I talked about policing, okay, as in they tell me, hey, I don't think you're doing the right thing there. They will also say, hey, numbnuts, bugger off. I get so little negativity on social media. So, the odd idiot. But as I said, that gets policed out. Honestly, it's such a rarity because of, I think, my intent, because of what I post, how I post, the respect I give to people. I think that my community feel protective of me.
Yeah, well, and I've experienced that too in the tribe where, people will become members and they have to go through 3 questions in order to become a member of the Small Business Big Marketing Tribe. Once they do, they're in, and you take them on face value, but then all of a sudden the first thing someone posts is, come and buy from me type stuff, or they're posting things that their agenda is actually not to help, it's actually just to sell, sell. And the amount of times that I've had community members just tag me and say, hey, Timbo, I don't know whether this person's the real deal. And the next thing I have a look at it and go, yep, that poster's gone, that member's cancelled. And they're powerful stuff. And back to haters, and I've mentioned this book a few times on the podcast, and I've had Jay Baer, fellow author and speaker, and out of the state, he wrote a great book on hug your haters. So haters aren't bad. Haters are a great opportunity to learn, but that's a whole nother discussion. Griffo, you have got a community building course coming up, which I'm really, really excited about. Not everyone can do it. We'll talk about the details later. But Griffo, if you could, for those who can't attend your course, share some actions that people can take after they've finished listening to start building their deeply engaged community. Do you want to start with this idea of you need to develop a fundamental philosophy towards your community? What do you mean?
Yeah, so I think we've got to say, okay, Rob, sit down and go, okay, if I'm going to invest the time and my business, is going to really benefit from this, what is my strategy? What is my attitude towards my community? Where am I really coming from with wanting to help, with wanting to serve? We hear these terms. You've got to come from a place of authenticity. And I think we've got to say, initially, this is what I wanted, and this is how I'm going to do this. So we want to be developing that plan to say, well, okay, yep, I want to help people, grow their business. I want to help people understand marketing, and, I want to take away some of the mystery and really provide lots of great resources, tools. I want to share information. I want to challenge thinking. I want to do those things. So we start to formulate the purpose, I guess, for the community. That's where I think that we need to start with a plan. Then we need to be able to go, okay, well, which platform? At some stage it always comes back to that. And the obvious answer for that is, what platform will your community be most, likely to use? For some people that might be Instagram. For some people, it's harder to have a lot of interaction on Instagram, but I get that. It might be 2 or 3 different platforms. There might be a LinkedIn group because it's a more corporate.
Facebook's, and I went through this process, and I've obviously landed on Facebook as being the place where my community lives, which is working really well. And the reason I decided was simply because, what do you do when you pick your phone up? You go and open Facebook. Now, it kind of shits me saying that, but it's the reality. It's just how it is. So you may as well fish where the fish are. It's just easy. If you're going to ask someone I've got a community on LinkedIn, it's just not as accessible. It doesn't feel as accessible. I've had third-party software like vBulletin and Zenforo, where you install them and you build these communities. They're great because you own them outright. Facebook could disappear tomorrow. It's not going to, but it could. Whereas you have these third-party software, you own that 100%. But I think you're right. I mean, it's got to be whatever is going to be easy for you to manage, and obviously where the fish are.
And you're right. I think there's third-party platforms. There's a lot of those kind of coming out now. And the argument is obviously you own it, they're all there, rah. But they're a way off from... Because there's a disintegration of stuff that happens. Even like on Kajabi and whatever, they've got a community thing. Who goes there? Who uses it? I know. It's too much of a conscious move. Oh, I've got to open my Fusion kind of room to go to Andrew's community, whereas I'm already scrolling through my Facebook feed or whatever it is, and so we're used to using that. I guess we're trained to be able to use that, and our market is definitely in here.
So these steps that we're going through, Griff, I've cherry-picked a few that I know that you're teaching in this course that you're providing, but just to finish on fundamental philosophy around community, It's the basis, it's the foundation from which you're going to build from. Don't ignore it. You know, as I say, marketing's full of two forms. You got message and medium when it comes to marketing, the fundamentals. Too many business owners skip directly to the medium. Oh, I'm going to be on Facebook. But what are you going to say? What's your message?
Exactly.
And part of that is mindset. And so being crystal clear. Like, again, if I'd had started my community with the intention of, oh, it's awesome, I'm just going to sell my book to every single person who joins, then that community ain't going to last very long.
Yeah.
I've gone in with the intention of my community of, I want them all to know each other. They know me.
Yeah.
Now I want them to know each other, and I want them to help each other and support each other and encourage each other and share ideas. And at some point, my dream for my community, which, as again, it lives on Facebook, I'm dying for the day, and it's actually me finding the courage to do this. It's only you and I listening here, Griffo, so I can say this, which is to have retreats, to bring people up to the beautiful Sunshine Coast where I live.
Yeah.
Learn a bit of business stuff, a bit of marketing stuff, but eyeball each other, you know, and have some fun, you know. And boy, oh boy, as a business owner, that just
absolutely.
really, you know, excites the hell out of me. Why I don't do it, I don't know, but I'll get there. Number two, Griffo, in terms of key actions to take to building a deeply engaged community, you talk about coming to terms with your role as being a leader.
So this one, again, not everyone feels comfortable, or, you know, because we've got this connotation of being a leader. It's like you write a book. I say to people, if you write a book, you're now a leader. You know, you're putting your thoughts out there, you're committing them to print. That means you got to stand behind it, you got to believe in it. That means you're a leader, whether you want to be one or not. So for me, what I look at with that is, in your community, like anything, you set the tone. You set the direction that it goes. You kind of set the boundaries as well. Like, I mean, as you say, someone contacts you and say, hey, I don't think that's quite appropriate on your, you know, in the group. And you're the one who goes, yeah, it's not. Let's take that off. They've raised it, but they haven't taken that person off. So you've got to be prepared to lead, and that means you've got to, you know, really understand what is my role as a leader of this community, you know, and again comes back to what is my role as a leader in this business, or the role of my leader in this organization, whatever that might look like. So I think we've got to define that for ourselves. If I'm going to build this community, this is the kind of leader I want to be. This is what it really translates to me for in terms of my actions. This is what is not acceptable for me as a leader to do or post or talk about or comment on. And this is what I don't really want to accept in this group either. And I kind of think, if I was running a retreat, what would I accept? How would I lead? How would I kind of do that stuff? And so that really sets the nice parameters around the information you share, how you support others, the actions you take, what you don't post compared to, you know, what you do. All of those kind of things start to get a little bit crystal clear. And a big part of that is things like, I'm going to take feedback on board. I'm not going to have a one-directional kind of community. I'm going to reach out. I'm going to be asking smarter questions. I'm going to be looking for advice. A few people within my community, I'm going to bring into a little bit of a trusted advisor group and say, hey guys.
Bring them in. There will be people in your community that will put their hand up and say, can I be an administrator?
Exactly.
And in fact, they don't even do that. They actually just become it by default. There is those people who just love to contribute and want to get more deeply involved in your brand, and they are out there. Every business will have. We talk about raving fans. These are even that level above that or below it. I don't know which way we're going here, but the ones that will, you know, do anything, bend over backwards for you to do it. A limiting belief, Griffo, as you're talking, that came to me was the idea that, you know, your role as a leader means you have to be there all the time. And again, yeah, you've got to be there consistently, but I can tell you, you know, if you're thinking, oh my God, this is going to take up hours a day, I mean, it's not. You know, you are going to have a community, maybe of tens of people, maybe of hundreds of people. If you are lucky or popular, it's not even about luck. You might have a community of thousands of people. Right now, I have a community of 1,400, and I go to a cafe, and it's great. It's a good reason to go to a cafe, get out of the home office, and spend 15 minutes reading and replying to those in the community each day. And honestly, that's all it takes. Let's move on to the next one.
I agree. Sorry, mate. That's a really, really great point, because you're right. I think, you know, there's this. This is a protest. When I say to people, you got to build a community. Oh, I haven't got time. I haven't got this. Blah blah blah. You know. And I'm the same. I've you know what I do? I use 5-minute increments really well throughout the day. I have a little list in my to-do sheet, things I can do with the 5-minute gaps between a call or between a meeting. And I might have
5-minute to-do sheet.
My 5-minute to-do sheets. And at the end of the day, I might have 20 items on there that if I sat down to do them would take me hours, but I fill my little gaps. And in there it's like, okay, just check in, with my Facebook group, do a post today about such and such. Bang, 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 it's done. There's some likes there. Hey, thanks a lot for that. It's minutes throughout the day. It is not like, well, that's half my day gone. And if you
it's
have
just not. I know it feels like that.
It does.
And again, it's just not the case.
But for me, I think your point that you made, which I just love, mate, is that you're at a cafe kind of doing it. It doesn't feel heavy for me to manage my community.
It's fun.
It doesn't go, oh God, I've got to manage, I've got to write it, I've got to do this. It's the exact opposite of that. I feel, well, okay, what's happening? Oh, wow, such and such has said this. Oh, wow, I must remember I've got to think a bit about that.
Totally.
There is no heaviness. There is no heaviness about it, and that's
now, Griffo,
important.
You've got this next point about getting a community live. You say plan content that resonates. Now, my question bigger than that is, and I want to know how you do plan content that resonates. We've touched on the fact that the community is going to tell you what they want, but how do you keep the community rolling forward? Yes, you can post a question. Mm-hmm. Yes, I can post an episode of my podcast and people are going to go, hey, listen to that. I like that. I thought Griffo was great, but Timbo lacked a little bit. But, that's okay. Okay, thick skin.
You're used to that.
Yeah, that's right. Welcome to my world. So the idea of, how do you keep that momentum of the community going forward? And obviously content is one of those things.
So my take and I guess, understanding now of content, having written a lot of content in the last, literally thousands of articles for people like Inc., is that for most of us that are doing content, we tend to have a sweet spot. So I have this is a bit hard to describe visually, but I have my own content matrix. And the way this works is I have levels of content, and I have a high level, which is I call alien eye, and that's a really high, looking down on the earth, talking about a high, like the future of small business, and then I go down to insect eye view. So insect eye view, fish eye view, bird's eye view, so at a higher level. And all that translates to me is fish eye view is detail, and that's three strategies to make your iPhone last longer in business, whereas at the top, the alien kind of view is, do we even need, mobile phones to communicate in business, So I have different levels, right? So if you imagine there's 5 different levels of that, then you go across and there's different styles of content that you create, content that you curate. So I saw this by Timbo. I thought my community might like this. I'm sharing it here. That's very important because that's, you don't have to create all your own content. Curating is just as valuable as the content that you create. The third type is commentating. Okay, so that's where you commentate about other stuff. And that might be, I don't agree, I don't, or I do agree, rah, rah. It's different to curating. The next one is celebrating. How fabulous, Timbo's reached 500 episodes of the show. This is, rah, rah, rah. Shine the light on others is what a lot of people use that is. And the last one, the fifth one, is commercial, where you talk about your product. You talk about something. Hey, I got great feedback from my keynote. I'm doing this, rah, rah. Now, if you looked at that as an X and Y axis, and we've got all the altitudes of the content and the types of content, most people have a sweet spot. If you map their content, the cross would be in the same place. Like you curate a lot of content, right? But that's it. The key with content is to fill the whole matrix. So if you're doing high level, then really detailed, short article. One thing you can do today to get an extra 20 minutes, how to use 5-minute increments of time really well, as much as the whole time management according to Gandhi. If you're mixing up your content around creating, curating, commentating, celebrating, and commercial, then again, your content is engaging for everyone at different levels.
And it's not just about, communities, I don't just post blog posts and podcast episodes in my community. That's one form of content, but another form of content, if you want to call it content, in fact, it wasn't even me. So I remember a couple of days ago, she asked, do I transcribe every episode? So all of a sudden, and that's not content, I suppose it's content, it's just a question. But it ensuing from that was a great discussion around where you can get transcriptions done, why transcriptions are good for search engine optimization. And now as a result of that, because I stopped transcribing each episode because I didn't see the return on investment, but now we are transcribing again as a result of that post. We found some great software. We've talked about the software in the community. People are trying it out. People are leaving their feedback. So, yeah, I mean, amazing stuff when you can be creating content that resonates, creating content, whether that content's there to put a laugh on someone's face, to help them make a more informed purchase decision, whatever it may be. Again, this is the fun part of a community. Just because you make pens, you don't have to be writing about pens, excuse the pun.
Exactly. But mixing up the content, I think, is one of the keys, because we do have a sweet spot. And what I see, if you go to someone's either Facebook group or a page or whatever it is that lacks engagement, 9 times out of 10, it's because they just keep doing the one piece of content and it's one directional. Here's this, how to do this. And it doesn't create engagement because there's no reason for engagement. All I got to do is read that. I don't need to interact or engage. So what we're trying to do is, if we're mixing up our content, that actually then encourages engagement, and it encourages people to do, to respond or share an opinion or to give a view. Or if we just blast content in one direction, we have disengagement, not engagement. So you've got to be careful of that and mixing up that content.
And I think too, as some of our listeners go and start building communities, just think about what you do in real life. You don't stand in front of someone you meet and just blast out. I wrote this article about how to be more productive, in winter. Can I give you the 3 points? And then I wrote another article about how to podcast. So you don't do that in front of someone in real life. So
no.
Yeah. Well, just to finish that content discussion, Griffo, and it's something that I write about in my book, The Boomerang Effect, is the editorial mission. And you've given some great tips on how to develop content. The editorial mission is another great way. I won't go into any detail because really it's all in the book, and we talk about it in my community, which is what have you got to offer, to who, and what outcome can they expect? So the editorial mission for the Small Business Big Marketing brand is marketing tips and tricks. That's what I have to offer. Who, for small business owners who can expect to generate more warm inquiry. And so now that I know that that's my editorial mission, I go off and create blog posts and podcast episodes and chunks of my keynote, all based on that editorial mission. And you won't hear me talk about HR, you won't hear me talk about cash flow, you won't hear me talk about taxation, because it lives outside of my editorial mission. So again, if you got a blockage around content, get over it. We're here to help. Join our communities. Griffo, we could obviously talk a hell of a lot more about this. We're out of time. You do have a course coming up. People can go and check it all out over at getacommunity.com. Griffo's got an amazing sales page there that takes it through everything. Got an 8-minute video. If you use the promo code TIMBO, TIMBO, you get $500 off, which is incredibly generous. I think it makes the course $1. That's not true.
And follow them.
That's right. And I would encourage you to really have a good, hard look at this. It'll be the best tax-deductible dollars you could spend on if you were interested in building a community. Any final words, Griffo? I think we've covered a fair bit of ground here, and either people's heads are spinning or they're busting to get off this podcast and start building a deeply engaged community.
The only thing I would say is don't let it overwhelm you, and a community starts with one person. And the idea of this program is to work with you over 6 months to hands-on help you build a community. That this is not an academic, this is how to do it. This is a hands-on. So every month we do one deep dive session, which is knowledge. And then the next session is, okay, everyone's on the call. What are you doing to build your community? Where are you at? What content have you written? Or if you've kind of got a community, but you haven't really got direction and clarity and a strategy and a focus, this program's going to help you really tighten that up. And, you'll probably lose a few people that you probably don't need in your community, but you'll get really focused on you'll build a great foundation to be able to grow it properly. I think that's probably the keys.
Well, there you go, team. Community building expert, prolific business author and speaker Andrew Griffiths. If the idea of building a deeply engaged community appeals, then do it right the first time by enrolling in Andrew's upcoming course at getacommunity.com. And be sure to use the promo code TIMBO for a lazy $500 off, which you will not find that anywhere else. Very kind of Griffo to offer that to my precious listeners. Now, if there was ever someone who over-delivered, it is Griffo, so I can assure you, you won't be disappointed. It'll be a fantastic course. Here's what grabbed my attention from that chat with him. Attention grabber number 1. I love Griffo's thinking around not just building a community, but a deeply engaged community. So important. It's not just about likes and shares and comments at all. It's about what the rest of your members do for each other and for your business, how deeply engaged they get. Attention grabber number 2. I love the idea of coming from a place of authenticity, not one of just pure selling, buy. You'll get caught out in no time if you go in with that as your sort of primary motivation. Be authentic, have fun. Attention grabber number 3. I love the idea of not being too literal when starting a community. Like Griffo said, if you sell pens, then you just don't start a community around pens, unless it's like collectible pens or something. But instead you'd start one that extends into writing, sketching, blogging, whatever it is your people do with pens. If you want to understand that a bit more and the editorial mission that I talked about, then grab a copy of my book, The Boomerang Effect, over at smallbusinessbigmarketing.com/558. Now, that's what grabbed my attention. Again, if you are interested in building a community, getacommunity.com and use the promo code TIMBO for $500 off, and you will be well and truly on the way. Now, write down this number and call me after the show, +61 480 015 150, because I'd love to know what grabbed your attention. I'd love to know what you're thinking around community, or maybe there's a marketing idea that's working for you. But I would love to hear from you, just like listener Luke did.
Timbo, it's your old mate Lukey here, and I just wanted to let you know that I've been out for a bit of a business dinner with a few online marketing types, and they are raving about the interviews that you've been doing, particularly the last one about, not related, but Kate Reid, who has done a fantastic job of transitioning from Formula One team to baking croissants, and that was just an awesome episode. Keep it up, mate. Love your work. Cheers, Luke.
Thank you, Lukey. Lovely to hear your dulcet tones. For those of you who don't know, Luke hosted the first 80 episodes of this podcast with me all those years ago. And yes, Luke, the Kate Reid interview was absolutely inspiring. I will put a link in the show notes to that for those who haven't heard. Luke's also the administrator, one of the administrators, including me, of the Small Business Big Marketing Tribe on Facebook, and he's also a Facebook ads expert. There is so much knowledge in our community. It's crazy stuff, and everyone's supporting each other. So I would encourage you to head over to Facebook and search for Small Business Big Marketing Tribe and join. It's free. And we have a lot of fun and encouragement and inspiration, all those wonderful things. It is a deeply engaged community. Thanks, Luke, for your message. Next episode, you and I catch up with the founder of a business, how's this, that offers something too good to be true, that feels a little scary, and that many need but few understand. That's cryptic. If you haven't already, be sure to grab a copy of The Boomerang Effect over at smallbusinessbigmarketing.com. If you're loving the Small Business Big Marketing podcast, I hope you are. If you've got this far, I reckon you are. Then you'll find 557 more episodes on your favourite podcast app. And this episode was presented by me, Timbo Reid. The music bared written, sung and produced by the great Lockie Dolly, and cleverly stitched together by my new producer, Romy Sher. Until next time, thanks for tuning in. May your marketing be the absolute best marketing. Bye for now.